1895. A freezing London evening. Thick fog fills the streets. The faint sound of horse-drawn carriages could be heard somewhere in the distance. Inside the rooms of 221B Baker Street, Sherlock Holmes sat in front of the fireplace, smoking his favorite pipe. Only the soft crackling of burning firewood echoed in the room. It was the perfect escape from the bitter cold outside. Dr. Watson was busy reading the day's newspaper. Just as he was glancing through the latest news in London, it suddenly happened. Someone frantically knocked on their door. The knocking was incredibly forceful. It was Lord Arthur Harrington, one of London's greatest industrialists and a collector of rare vehicles. But he was sweating profusely from fear. Panting heavily, he said, "Mr. Holmes, my greatest treasure has been stolen. The police haven't found a single clue. You're the only one who can help me." Holmes slowly stood up, blowing smoke from his pipe. A keen interest in the case sparkled in his eyes. Holmes calmly asked, "What exactly was lost, Lord Harrington?" "Finding a moment of relief," the Lord replied. "The silver sculpture, mounted on the front of my newest luxury car. It's not just a sculpture, Holmes. It is the only masterpiece in the world, built using complex mechanical gears." Holmes grabbed his overcoat and hat to leave immediately. Holmes and Watson arrived at the heavily guarded garage of the Harrington estate. It was a fortress-like garage, surrounded by massive stone walls. The garage doors were locked from the inside. The heavy iron locks were right there. The theft was only discovered when the security guard arrived in the morning and broke down the door to get in. The luxury car was parked right there. Holmes took out his magnifying glass and closely examined the front of the car. There were no signs that the silver sculpture had been forcefully ripped off. Instead, it looked as though it had been unscrewed with extreme precision. The screw threads on it had absolutely no damage. "Watson, this is no ordinary thief's work. Whoever is behind this has a deep understanding of the car's technology and mechanics," Holmes whispered. To confirm his deductions, he crouched down. He then crawled around, inspecting the entire garage floor. He examined every single inch through his magnifying glass. Suddenly, from under the car, Holmes found a tiny, gunmetal-colored screw. Holmes realized at first glance that it was not a part of the car. Everyone present was now under a shadow of suspicion. There were three main suspects in the case. 1. The security guard on night duty. 2. Harrington's business rival, Mr. Smith. And 3. Thomas, the chief engineer who handles all the mechanical work for that car. Holmes questioned all three. He was closely observing the body language of each person. While questioning Thomas, Holmes's eyes drifted down to his arm. On Thomas's wrist was an expensive gunmetal watch with a very minimalist design. It matched the exact metal and color of the screw Holmes had found. Holmes noticed a fresh, tiny scratch on the watch's strap. It was the exact kind of scratch caused by metal scraping against metal. A faint smile blossomed on Holmes's lips. After the questioning, Holmes went straight to the upper level of the garage. Up there was a small ventilation pipe designed for airflow. Looking down through it, one could see the exact spot where the car was parked. Holmes laughed and said to Watson, "Watson, the game is over. I know exactly who the thief is." He asked everyone to gather near the car. Calling everyone together that evening, Holmes began to explain his findings. No one entered through the doors of this garage, and no one left through them either. Because the theft didn't happen through the door, it happened through that small ventilation pipe up above. Everyone looked at each other in shock. Among them, Thomas the engineer had a look of sheer panic on his face. Holmes continued, "Our culprit knows every single inch of this car by heart. From up above, he lowered a long, custom-made mechanical tool. Using that tool, he unscrewed the sculpture from the car without damaging it and pulled it right back up. But during that attempt, a tiny screw popped off his device, which is what I found down below." He turned around, pulling that screw out of his pocket. Holmes held the screw out toward Thomas. Thomas stood frozen, completely at a loss for words. "Mr. Thomas, the scratch on your watch and the color of this screw are an exact match. That scratch happened last night while you were operating your device. If we search your personal workshop, we will find that silver sculpture." Thomas realized he could no longer deny the truth. He hung his head in guilt. After confessing, Thomas was arrested by the police. Relieved that he would get his precious treasure back, Harrington thanked Holmes. More than a greed for money, it was an engineer's mad desire to possess that mechanical masterpiece that drove the theft. It was a kind of obsessive love for a creation that was far beyond his own skills. The great mystery that had baffled the entire London police force was unraveled by the legendary Sherlock Holmes through a single tiny screw.